Well, I won't take long, and I'll let you open it up like I've done before. But obviously, we got a challenge in front of us, so it's really hard to dwell upon the things from last week. That doesn't mean we didn't address them. Doesn't mean we obviously haven't watched and gone about the corrections of the things that we have to be able to do, because we got to continue to move forward. But with what sits in front of us in particular this week, it's really hard to spend a whole lot of time dwelling upon last week. And we put that to rest, put it to bed Sunday, went out there on the field, ran around, not quite as much as we normally would. So some of your questions on, guys' health and things like that, I probably would have less of an answer today than I would normally have on a Monday, just because, just where we are in the season and some of the injuries we've had, even coming out of the game, we weren't able to do as much on a Sunday that we would normally do to just see where some guys are. But nonetheless, again, this is a challenge, and we know what it looks like moving forward. This week is going to be an incredible challenge, but I think that's something that our guys will help them kind of put the past behind them and make sure they're focusing on the things that are in front of them, the challenge that's in front of them, because the challenge is really, really big, and it takes your focus away from the things that just happened. So in some ways, this is a great opportunity for us.
You mentioned the challenge this week. I know it's been a tough few weeks, certainly, but what gives you optimism about what Wisconsin can do this week when the number one team in the country is coming here?
I mean, there's nothing to lose. And I think that sometimes some of the things that hold us back is just, our own selves in a way that, like, look, we're trying to be perfect, and the recognition that if you're going to go out there and you're going to do anything against the number one team in the country, you can't be held back by, being perfect, because being perfect is not going to get us what we need to get. And so I think some of that, hopefully, even the things that have happened the last few weeks, at some point in time, hopefully some of the pressure comes off of recognizing, like, okay, what's holding us back and what's going to help us move forward. So I think it's twofold. It's being up for the challenge, it's understanding the challenge, but then be willing to understand, like, that this is a game of imperfection, and the only way to get better at the game is to play it faster. And when you're, in the perfect mindset, it doesn't allow you to do that. And against a team like this that you can't be perfect, it's going to, I think, give us a little bit of a, that little spark. That's what I believe.
Luke, you watch an Ohio State game this year, and a lot has talked about their defense and how they're disguising things. As you study them, I know it's only been about 48 hours, but as you study them, what stands out about how they kind of run their defense?
I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you that the way they disguise things and the things that they're really doing. I'm not to that point just yet. I know this: they've got really good football players, and I think that in particular, in the back end of things where a lot of the disguise comes from. They can do a lot of different things with Caleb Downs, and he gives you an opportunity to, line him up anywhere and know he's going to put himself into a position that makes it harder for you to read and recognize those things. So, again, the disguise is something that's really good, but I don't think that overshadows the ability of the guys that line up front and really across the board.
If Billy's unable to go this week, would the quarterback situation, would that be the same plan as last week? Or
can't answer that just at this point in time. I wouldn't know. We got to see the health of everybody, and so that's one of those things that not having a Sunday to see where we were, we also didn't give those guys opportunities to do a ton of things as well. That'll be big for as we get rolling into Tuesday. So I don't have an exact on that just yet. Then there'll be some version of, hey, let's see what we've got. And there's a little bit of a competition that's always got to be able to go on.
With Kerry Kadanko, these last couple games, he's been out there a lot. What is he giving you that allows you or makes you want to keep sending him out there?
Well, I think there's some consistency with Kerry. He's a guy that's still getting over a little bit of the injury that he had. So I'm not saying anybody in the midst of the season is 100% healthy, but Kerry gives you some, obviously some senior leadership, some calmness to what it is that he does and his confidence level, as opposed to some of the younger guys. And so I think that combination of having Kerry in there, even so 2 weeks ago when you had a new center, maybe wasn't as, big of a, not say a big of a deal, but wasn't as necessary last week when you had Jake back at playing center. But I think that that combination of what Kerry has given you, knowing what it means to him, has been what's put him out there a little bit more than maybe Colin, and Colin hasn't had as many opportunities in the last couple weeks. But that's another one of those things that, like, look, man, we're going to have to continue to grind this thing and move this thing forward. And there's a lot more young guys that are going to get some greater opportunities. That might be one of the positions. I'm not saying that Kerry hasn't done a good job, and I'm not saying that we don't believe in Kerry, but because he does give you some, obviously some leadership in that position. But I think as we continue to push forward, there's going to be a lot of guys that need to be put in a position to allow them to play, to see what they can do.
Coach, I remember in the preseason you talked about establishing that leadership group to hopefully keep things together when, these tough times inevitably hit. I'm assuming you met with them after Iowa. I guess.
No, I haven't met with them just yet, but
I guess, meeting them with them over the past several weeks, how would you gauge the pulse of the team and their willingness to stick things through?
yeah. Well, I would tell you this, that sometimes sitting with a leadership group isn't the best way to gauge the pulse of everything that's going on. Not that, they don't tell you, but it's still one of those things that's not the most open. But if you're going through the locker room, watching, sitting, looking, listening, I think that has a lot to do with, what we need to be able to do, as opposed to just, are they going to tell us everything that they're thinking, whether it's a leadership group or not. And I can sit here and tell you that's where you don't feel it. There's a difference even to, as we struggled last year, that you felt some things different on the sideline. You saw some things different in the locker room. You heard some things different, whether it was in the locker room or after practice or whatever, that those guys have done a really good job, continue to push the message of what this is. And so whether they've told us exactly how that is, like sometimes, by nature, people tell you what you want to hear, but they usually show you what you need to know. And I think that we've seen a lot of those things that I think those guys, they continue to promote and push the things that we, have stressed. And I mean that in the toughest times. And so, again, it's been, able to communicate with some of those guys, but I think just watching how they react and how they handle the locker room, the things that are being said, the way that guys, come and go, I'm not worried about that. There's a lot of other things I had to be worried about, stopping Ohio State or defending, some of their incredible players or blocking some of their guys. That, to be honest with you, that's even more of a concern to me than where we are with the locker room, because I think those guys have done a really good job.
So Luke, talking about some of the younger players, someone like Kairos Gaines, how did you evaluate some of the film that what he did against Iowa?
I think he did a good job. I think that, he's always been a guy that's been in the mix in some ways, but he had been playing field corner and, through the first 5 or so games hadn't got many opportunities other than some special teams, just by nature with Rico. And this past week, moving him into the boundary, we knew it was going to give him some opportunities to be able to roll in there. And the opportunities he got, I thought he did a good job. He didn't panic. He didn't, bat an eye at the, obviously the magnitude of the game and things like that, where, he's taken a lot of reps through fall camp. But those reps are a lot different than when you actually go out there and the lights are on. And it didn't seem to be overwhelm him in any way. And I see a guy like him continuing to play more and more, whether that's defensively or special teams wise, but his role is going to continue to increase because I think he's handled it well.
Well, this has been a 6-year trend for this program, so it's maybe not fair to ask you about all of it, but there's been a decrease in the number of players from Wisconsin on the roster in the last 6 years. How would you evaluate how your staff's gone about in-state recruiting and its success in that realm so far?
It's important, and I think that more than anything that, as you really dive into it, your home base has got to be something. If you're going to establish some depth in your program, if you're going to establish, some longevity in your program, you got to have a home base, and regardless of where you are, right? And so, is the number of Division I football players increasing from the state of Wisconsin? I don't know. I can't say that that's with a fact. But I will always say, like my own kids, like there's still developmental kids in this state in particular. And that's where they've always been, right? And that's where the walk-on program has been so phenomenal here, to guys being overlooked from here, that all of a sudden after 2 or 3 years in college, they're different. The generality of the Midwest, you don't play football year round. So there's a lot more development to be done as they get to college, and we've got to just continue to pound the pavement and making sure that we're getting the right ones from inside the state and keeping them here, and then having the opportunity to be able to develop them. Because the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of kids coming. Most kids coming into college can't play right away. A lot of kids coming into college can't play even in their first or second year. But what they are in that third, fourth, and fifth year is a lot different. You got to establish some roots, and you got to establish the ability to be able to develop those guys. And it's going to be incredibly important for us to establish some more depth and to grow what we need to grow.
Luke, in the past, when you've kind of talked about younger guys playing, it seems like maybe by coincidence or not, Mason and Cooper are names you kind of thrown out there at the same time. What do you like about what those guys are doing? What are they showing you in those snippets when they get out there?
They show them that it doesn't bother them what the situation is. You know what I mean? Like whether you're going in the game late when, it's against Middle Tennessee or something and you're winning, or you're going in late against, a team where, obviously the game is, not in your favor. They haven't changed. They haven't batted an eye. There's still a process to what you're doing. Those guys are still, there's a lot of unknowns, right? I mean, as coaches, you want to put them out there in more, situations where, hey, they're the game's on the line, and to see how they react and respond. But they're going to continue to have to be put in those positions earlier and earlier now to play. And we can't, think that hopefully we can figure it out after, a couple games against Middle Tennessee State, or late in a game against Miami of Ohio, or in a situation where the game's not on the line. We're going to have to put those guys in these situations from the get-go in some instances, and expect that they're going to be able to play. And so I don't know anything more other than you love who they are, you love what they've shown you, whether it's been fall camp or spring football. You love what they've shown you in some instances in the small snippets that we've seen them. But we're going to have to believe in them and trust them and give them some more opportunities early on.
Kind of looking big picture halfway through the season, I know you're not dwelling on the past, but a lot of your numbers on both sides of the ball have taken a step back from last year, and especially what you're expecting going into this season. Aside from injuries, what would you say is kind of the biggest factor in you guys kind of coming up short to this first half of the season?
I'm not exactly sure which exact ones, other than the wins and losses. That's obviously the easiest one to evaluate. There's a lot of factors. I mean, we can't shy away. I'm not making an excuse. You can't shy away from the fact injuries hurt, and the quarterback position injury more so than any other position. But what it comes down to ultimately is still got to find ways to make plays. Whoever's in there, whether it's a true freshman kid, whether it's a guy that like Kerry Kadanka that's in his 6th year that has the greatest opportunity that that he's ever had. When those guys go in there, we still have to have an expectation that they can play, they can make plays, they can sustain blocks, they can get off blocks, and that's what it comes down to. And whether it statistically looks better or it doesn't look better, I mean, the end result is what you're always looking for. And right now, that's just obviously the end result is hard to, to try to find the positives as it grows. But I can't pinpoint any one other thing other than, hey, yes, injuries are a factor. In particular, the quarterback position is a factor. And then our ability for guys to be confident enough to be able to play fast and make plays. I think that's what it comes down to, whether it's the first play of the game last week when, bobble a ball, or if not, I mean, like at some point in time, we got to be able to come down with those things. The deep shots, would it be a great play on a catch? Is the guy dragging on him? Is he holding it? Yeah, but at some point in time, we got to make the play. Just like tackles, there's plays in open space that, we got to make the plays. We got to get off blocks. So I think more so, I would say as a coach, it's giving our guys an opportunity to be in a position that they can make a play, but we got to win in some situations too.
You talked about talking with, playing some of the younger players, but just what are the conversations maybe with like the older guys, if it comes to that, like trying those guys out, or is there, how do you approach that type of conversation?
I think that what we got to understand is like what we're doing, we got to continue to do together. And some of that means we got to be fresher, right? I mean, if you're, Tackett Curtis to play, all 60, 65 snaps is not going to be the best thing. It's not going to be the best thing for him. It's not going to be the best thing for the team. We do it a lot more up front on the defensive line, which is the natural progression of things. But it's the same thing of playing at corner, Not that we don't trust Emilio to go in and play the whole game. but the two of those guys having the ability to share reps, to learn from each other, to be fresher, gives us a better opportunity, like you said, to make plays. I mean, when you're fresh, when you've got more to you, getting off of blocks and things like that gives you a greater opportunity to do that. And same thing offensively. Sometimes a little bit harder on the offensive line to just think you're going to roll guys in there because there is a unique continuity that has to be had. But if we're truly in this thing together, and if we do have what you guys were asking about in the heart of the locker room, people, whether you personally want to be out there in every snap and feel like it's a disservice to you if you've been taken out, you also recognize the bigger picture of things and how we have to be able to do things together, and you got to believe that.
Coach, heading into what could arguably be the toughest game of your season, what do you say to a frustrated fan base to bring the energy on Saturday?
I mean, they got to be just like us. Like, I mean, every game's a new game, and I know it's frustrating. I know it's disappointing. I don't blame you, but the truth of the matter is Saturday is Saturday, and we need our guys' best effort. We need our coaches' best effort, and we need the people's best effort too. And regardless if they're frustrated or not, like there's got to be a belief in the things that they're doing. They can be mad at me. That's fine. Don't be mad at those kids, and those kids need them. They need to feel that support. They need to see that support. But they know what the challenge looks like, and it's got to be a challenge to all of us.
Coach, also along those lines of that question, in the past 48 hours, have you kind of felt maybe a sense of uncertainty and job security, and how would you like to go about the next couple of weeks in addressing this fan base and this program that you're still the right guy for the job?
I don't know that that's my position, right? I mean, first and foremost, I got to make sure that the locker room is the most important thing, right? I'm not going to change people's minds outside of the results, obviously, change people's minds. So to go out there and start some campaign of some sorts, like the truth of the matter is, we got to go game by game. We got to get the guys inside this locker room. That's what I asked about, right? I mean, like, they can be mad at me, they can be down on me. That's perfectly fine. But don't be down on those guys in that locker room. Those guys that wear the W, the guys that go out there. They can scream and holler if they don't make a play that they want them to make, but they got to be able to support them. And I think that's the most important thing, is recognizing what are you really supporting, and what do you really love. And for me to sit here and worry about all those other things, there's not enough time in the day. There's not enough energy in the day. So the focus for me and for our staff is on the guys inside that locker room, and doing everything we can to make sure that we keep that thing rolling. They've got the right mindset. They understand what we got to do. We got to do together, and we got to put our best product out there on Saturday.
Luke, I understand there's probably other people in the program that might be more directly involved with this on a day-to-day, but do you feel like I'm getting there.
Oh.
Do you feel like you guys at Wisconsin are, from an NIL perspective, able to be competitive nationally?
I don't know if that's something we want to go into right now. It would, if I said no or if I said yes, I'd be sitting here making excuses. And the truth of the matter is that's not going to affect anything right now. That's not going to change the trajectory of where this season is. It's not going to help us for Saturday. So it's kind of hard to get off on a tangent and speak about something like that. Maybe that's something I can answer in January.
Just regarding Ohio State, obviously they are what they are every year, but what stands out about this particular Ohio State team?
Well, you see a confidence building. Not that people would say, well, they were not returning national champs, how they don't have confidence. But I think when you have a new quarterback, when you have some new pieces, you can see a growth. And I think what you do see is even the growth from game one to where they are now. And so it's hard to get past some of the, just the talent level that they have and the ability to make plays, both offensively and defensively. But I do think you see a uniqueness of complementary football that maybe at the start of the season, I'm not sure that maybe they thought they would have or did have. I mean, obviously we all want it, but you're really seeing that kind of grow as you watch them and evaluate them through the season.
I believe the transfer portal rules are officially changed and the window is now, that stretch in January. I guess just want to get your thoughts on what you think of that move.
Again, another one of those things that we probably. I think it's a good move that we've got one. To get much more into it, I don't know that this is the time or the place, but nonetheless, it is one portal window is the way to go. There's no doubt, and hopefully we can stick to that. And I'm not even sure January 2nd to the 15th or whatever it is. That'll be a big time in college football.
I realize this isn't your first time coaching against Ohio State, but obviously a place that has been significant in your history. Kind of, is there any specialness to playing against them still?
I'd say maybe in the development, just as being a player and things like that, and spend a lot of time there. No, it's like anything, right? I mean, it's like playing your big brother, in some ways. And so, yeah, deep down inside, that's something, burning. It's quite can be a little bit different, but. To be honest with you, in where we are and what we're doing, it's hard to overshadow, every single day of us finding ways to get better. We know the task that's going to be in front of us on Saturday. We have to be prepared for that. I have to be prepared for that. But I think in the midst of where we are, it allows me not to focus on some of those things that, whether you've had history there or how long you spent there, or maybe even some of the relationships you have there. It's pretty easy to just kind of stay focused on the day-to-day things right now and making sure we're pushing forward and worrying about these 100 and so guys that we've got inside this locker room.
Very good.
I probably would just answer, just in case. I don't know on Billy. I know that nobody asked that just yet. I don't have any questions on Billy of any sorts of anything like that. I was not trying to make any point like that. Like, we want Billy to be 100% or as close to 100% in order to be able to protect himself. And at some point in time, that's going to fall on the shoulders of him as well. And so we don't question anything about that. We would love to have him out there. We would love to have him in the preparation. But we've also put ourselves in that position, a few weeks ago that probably, I'm not saying set us back, but probably, set him back a little bit. And that was a mistake on my part because I told you guys I got to save Billy from himself. And my job to continue to do is to save Billy from himself again. So that when we do get him back, we have him back for what we would feel like is the duration of the year. So thank you.